the Shroud of Turin, it said, that may have been the Mandylion. The Mandylion was the image of Jesus, which was shown in Byzantium every so often. It may have been at the Church of the Madonna of Blachernae, but I'm not sure about that. But anyway, Ian Wilson, a historian, has looked at the issue of the Mandylion and has concluded that that was probably the folded up Shroud of Turin, which only showed the face of Jesus. And that when a French knight on one of the Crusades came and got hold of it somehow and brought it to France, and then it was bequeathed to the House of Savoy, where it stayed until recent times, and now it's of course in the possession of the Catholic Church, and it's held in Turin. But we know the shroud is probably authentic, because a forger would have had to do certain things that he wouldn't have even known he would have to do to make a valid forgery in the Middle Ages, and there are things which he could not have done. So creating an image which contains three-dimensional information, which can now be extracted and has been extracted to create a 3D image, which you can't do with a painting or a drawing. And also, grains on the shroud are from Palestine, Turkey, and southern Europe. So we can see we have information about the shroud and its journey to probably into Turkey, because of course Byzantium is right there on the Bosphorus, and it works its way through to Europe. What forger would do that? But there's much more one could say about the Shroud of Turin. Well, it would have to be more than well organised. You see, if you're a 21st century forger, you're thinking, well, what do I have to do to make this something that I could sell, make money from? You can only think about what you might know, what might be convincing. You can't go and do things which you can't even think of, that in another century they're going to check and find. This is one of the things about the shroud. Okay. Okay. Sounds like Nicholas Allen. All right. Leonardo da Vinci. Okay. Because some say it's his face, right? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. There are many reasons why. Nicholas Allen, if it's him or any other medieval forger theorist, you have to posit that they get either a corpse and then they roll him in this cloth. And they do all these kind of odd things which seem to be very unlikely. But you see, the cloth can't be rolled in a substance which is going to create an image. This image is one fibre deep. It doesn't penetrate through the cloth. And the nature of the image is not paint. It's not a burn mark either. So, okay. And you have to get pollen. You have to get pollen from Palestine. Now you're in the Middle Ages, right? You're in the Middle Ages in France, say. How are you going to get this? Why would you even think about it? You're not going to take this cloth on a long journey, are you? Did they? I'll pass on that. But why would you even bother? You're here to make some money. You want to forge this image. You're not going to do everything, and you can only do what you can think of as significant. You wouldn't even think about pollen. Who's looking at pollen in the Middle Ages?
Did they know about pollen?
Not even sure. And also, what about if you're Poland from Palestine, if you're that far-sighted, why would you get it from Turkey?
Yeah, why? Yeah.
Why would you think it would be going through Turkey?
Would you know that there's differences? Would they have that type of information?
Well, unless you're going up by ship, which support I found difficult at one time, you have to go overland with Turkey, Christmas, Asian Minor.
Okay, I'll tell you what. People who posit theories for the creation of the Turin Shrouds, firstly, it's important to know that the carbon-14 dating was wrong. Simple reason. One, we have in the National Archives, National Library of Hungary, because the shroud is dated between 1290 and 1390, something like that, or 1490. In the National Library in Hungary, we have a drawing, it's a tableau actually, several drawings, one of which shows Jesus being laid on a cloth. This pre-manuscript, as it's called, is from about the 11th century, thereabouts. So it predates the Turin Shroud dates. Not by huge numbers of centuries, but predates it nonetheless. And we know this is the Turin Shroud because there's a primitive herringbone weave being drawn on there, which is the weave of the Turin Shroud. And most importantly, there's a triangular shape of 4 holes on this drawing, which is exactly what you have on the Turin Shroud because somebody seems to have run a hot poker through it at some point in the past and creates these 4 images, 4 holes.
The carbon dating they did on the shroud is not on, it was on what they hold. And they said that what they hold, the outer layer that they hold, is an addition. It was sewn into a shroud.
Yeah.
But the carbon dating is not the cloth of the shroud itself.
This is another view about why that carbon dating may have been wrong, because there was patchwork done. The shroud, the cloth itself is interesting because what the forger would have to do, he'd have to get a cloth which is woven in the same way as cloths were woven back in late antiquity. Also, or not necessarily late antiquity, but way back at the time of Christ. And it's not just any old cloth, it's the kind of cloth that a rich man would be laid in. So all this has to be done. Now, one could imagine a brilliant forger, but we don't seem to have a brilliant forger about anything else in the Middle Ages. They're all a bit cack-handed, to tell the truth. Unless you can find me some other object which has been, we think, wow, this is amazing, and only in the mid-20th century onwards have we cracked this and said, wow, this is dodgy. It was so well attested. For example, on the point of the shroud, another validating object is something that is very, very little known, even less known than the Blessed Virgin of Guadalupe. It is called the, gosh, I had it in my mind, it just went right out of my head then. It's a cloth which is not got an image on it, it's just got blood stains. And it's, the cloth of Oviedo, it's called. Oviedo because of Spain. Yes, that's right, you know of it. And we know its provenance much more than we do of the shroud. It is known that in 614 AD, it was taken from Jerusalem to Alexandria by ship, and then from Alexandria to southern Spain. And the reason this happened is because in 614 AD, the Persians had invaded the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, Eastern Roman Empire, and they conquered Jerusalem. And so to save the relic from destruction, they took it to Alexandria. The Persians were following, not because they were looking for the relic, because they wanted to conquer Egypt. And so it was taken from there to Spain. And when the Muslims came a century later, it was taken north. And that's why it got to Oviedo. But the bloodstains on this cloth have been matched to the pattern of bloodstains on the face of the shroud man. And so we can say these two items, being of the same objects, mean that the shroud can be dated to at least 614 AD. But that's a separate thing. I should actually prepare and come here with detail about these things. But it just arose out of our discussions